Alrighty. Here's another one of those sinners I haven't covered, so they're getting an ID review out of pity. Okay, I actually like a lot of Sinclair IDs, but this one won the popular vote, so here we go. Dawn Office Fixer Sinclair. From the Third World Purgus, he's based off of Philip from Library of Ruina, and is a mildly terrible adaptation of his kits, but otherwise an amazing ID. This is because unlike Philip, this kit is actually really functional and perfectly playable, without needing to sacrifice all of your good key pages to turn him into a usable librarian. It also helps quite a lot that this version is almost all in on slash damage, and gets some disgusting kit-wide benefits functionally for free. Regardless, this guy is amazingly designed for the time of release. To an extent, he holds up today even, with a few oddities here and there. Rather, this is an ID outside of the realm of standardization still. That kind of standardization started towards the tail end of Season 4 and start of Season 5. Everything from that point onwards has coin power based on magic numbers of 6, or base and final power based on multiples of 4, alongside reasonably attainable damage increases based on their main status. This ID is cleanly out of that kind of limitation and rather breaks through them quite hard, especially with their signature skill. To be blunt, his claim to fame reads like an actual ego skill rather than a base skill, whether for better or worse. To break the mold of older IDs, his kit revolves entirely around his passives. He's one of the earlier ones with multiple passives, and both of them are exceedingly important for the functionality of his kit as a whole. Rather, without them, he may as well be weaker than a vast majority of even Season 1 IDs. First is Unstable Shell of an Ego. Compared to newer ego units like Index Don, Sinclair's ego is a volatile one, meaning it isn't fully manifested. In practice, this means he can lose ego state pretty easily if not properly maintained. Essentially, he needs over 40 SP to enter ego state at the cost of 20 SP. That, or 2 allies need to kick the bucket for him to forcibly engage it. Like with Index Don, if he staggers due to damage or other means while entering ego state, he recovers from stagger, with the exception of abnormal staggers like Don Bake. When in ego state, he gains a buff called Volatile Passion. This mirrors one of Philip's key page passives, which would give him additional dice power if the target had burn. But compared to the huge bonus that would be in Ruina, we instead get one final power if the target has burn, and inflict burn when hit. We also lose SP at the end of turn based on Volatile Passion stacks, that of which we gain 1 per turn in ego state. This equates to 5 SP loss per stack per turn that we need to try and mitigate, maxing out at 40 SP loss. Finally, for this passive, at 0 or less SP we lose ego state. As for the benefits ego state provides us, I'll go over those once we get to the base skills themselves, since thankfully only one skill is completely replaced upon entering compared to Index Don's entire kit. His second passive is Stigma Workshop Weaponry / Passion. This part is the difference maker. It's what separates Sinclair from Philip in sheer power. For 5 Wrath resources stocked, he inflicts 1 more burn potency and count, up to 6 per turn. This is a huge benefit and can single-handedly solve Burn's count issues. But combined with, say, Firefist, this takes count to absurdly stable levels. Then comes the real kicker, the part that turns his kit up to 11. When he is in ego state, he gains coin power based on SP. Every 20 positive SP gives him 1 coin power, but at maximum SP, he gains plus 3 coin power. Compared to base power, coin power is infinitely more disgusting, and getting this much is bloody insane. For reference, each base power only gives a single extra power per coin, whereas coin power gives a compounding amount per skill. With 3 coins, a single base power only gives 3 more power total, whereas a single coin power gives 6 more power due to getting +1 on the first coin, +2 the second coin, and +3 on the final coin, for a total of +6. With this passive maxed out, 3 coin power across his skills gives a high amount of base damage. With, well, one exception, which we'll soon find out. Anyhow, on to his skills. Skill 1 is Fierce Charge. This is a single coin that rolls exceedingly poor without any power bonuses. Heck, the skill in Ruina rolls higher at base and does more. Regardless, it inflicts 2 burn on hits. Now, if we have ego states, this coin rerolls itself, suddenly becoming exceedingly strong, at least post-clash. On the Clash, it can still be kind of questionable unless he also has his field passive going, in which case we'll need to layer a few more bonuses onto this thing. First off, it gets final power from Volatile Passion, so long as the target has burn, which, in the team we're planning on running, is bound to happen. It inflicts one more burn from Volatile Passion, as well as an additional burn and count from the Stigma Workshop bonuses. Adding on top of that is potentially 3 more coin power from his SP coin power conditionals. Suddenly, this S1 is now quite disgusting compared to quite a few out there even today. While it only goes up to 14 on the Clash, which is lower than most newer IDs, 15 to 16 these days, the reroll lands at 24, which is filthy. All this for having 1 burn on targets, ego states, and having 45 SP. Not to mention the increase in status application. That's 8 potency on the reroll. The only thing this doesn't really have is any sort of damage increase outside of base power, thus placing it more firmly as a potency stim with pretty good base numbers. If any other dynamic amplification like fragile or damage up comes this way, this thing can of course hits for some solid numbers. Next we're looking at Sunset Blade. The Ruiner version of this skill is pretty cool as it rolls 3 offensive dice that inflict a burn each. Sinclair's version starts out almost identical to this in rolling 3 coins that inflict a burn count each. Once again, it has no coin power conditionals of its own, but at least gains a Clash power at the very low requirement of 4 burn on target. Ego States does a lot for this skill though, including introducing some demerits. First off, we're losing 10 SP, split into 5 on use and 5 after attack. This is actually a pretty rough price, as combined with the end of turn SP loss from Volatile Passion, this skill can make it difficult to maintain ego states. It also makes clashing with this skill a little less reliable, as it'll be clashing with 40 SP instead of 45 in the best case scenario. Couple that with the coin power conditional from Stigma Workshop going down from 3 to 2, and things aren't looking quite as fantastic. If we unopposed attack with it, we lose 1 coin power. If we clash with it, it's done with 1 less coin power. Not fantastic, especially with it being the skill that gets the most out of coin power in his entire kit. To get the full power out of this skill, at least when attacking, we must win a clash to get back to 45 SP, then dump out the power in full. However, we then lose 5 SP afterwards, meaning repeatedly spamming this skill is a quick way of losing ego states or draining his reliability fast. That said, there is a major benefit involved here. Attack weights, up to 3 even. Before the attack, it checks his SP for the conditional. At 45, he hits up to 3 targets. Otherwise, he'll hit at least 2. This means clashing this skill is essential not only for coin power and SP recovery, but for maxing out the attack weight conditional. As for the rest, Stigma Workshop and Volatile Passion amp that burn from just a single count for 1 potency and 2 counts per hit. Unfortunately, since it doesn't have any potency of its own, Stigma Workshop only boosts the counts instead of potency. Regardless, 6 count application in an AoE is absurd. Heck, on a single target, having 6 counts is already insanity. As for the skill 3, there's 2 of them. The first is Stigmatize. In Ruiner, this is a double pierce that gives the Librarian a negative emotion coin. Here, it's a double stab with a Clash win SP gain and Clash lose SP loss. It's a risk-reward affair to turbo his SP gain. Anyhow, it otherwise inflicts 6 burn potency, up to 8 with Stigma Workshop. Since volatile ego states can't apply to this skill, it otherwise can't gain any additional coin power from his passives, nor the additional burn and final power from Volatile Passion. Regardless, this skill isn't what we're here for. His alternative S3 is his biggest claim to fame. Blazing Strike. On paper, this thing is bloody scary. At the gate, it has 13 bloody base power and 15 coin power. We are close to the base ego territory out of the gates, especially with that plus 5 offense level. For reference, Branch of Knowledge rolls to a 29 with plus 3 offense level, barely a single point above this skill. Actually, there isn't any other base ego that has this level of power besides Branch of Knowledge. Sinclair only really beats himself with Branch of Knowledge. Regardless, Blazing Strike has an absurd amount of conditionals that can be fulfilled. First is some ridiculous coin power up to a plus 8, not based on the target itself but based on the entire enemy party. 16 is the magic number here to max it out. Considering the capabilities offered in his other skills, as well as having 6 other sinners to potentially fuel this, 16 burn potency is shockingly doable. Past there on Clash win, he gains 10 more SP. And on Clash lose, well, he's pretty much going to lose ego states almost guaranteed. From there is a resonance-based damage conditional up to 60% on a RAF resin and 120% on an absolute RAF resin. This is some stupid levels of damage just for playing Bejeweled. Unfortunately, this skill loses us 15 more SP after attack, which is not a negligible cost and one to account for in his optimization. We'll get to the horrors of his SP yo-yo during play patterns. As for the conditionals on the coin, it deals up to 120% more damage based on burn potency, maxing its effect out at 30 on target. This used to be a lot harder to attain, but with the existence of some key burn support, it's since become a lot easier to do. Next, we're mostly looking at burn stims. With 10 burn on targets, he spreads a stupid amount of burn around on hits. Count even if we fulfill the RAF Resonance conditional. This doesn't have a hard limit on it, but reasonably it can spread burn to every enemy in the encounter, even the funny Church of Gears one. It also inflicts 10 burn on its own, and on kill inflicts the target's remaining burn across all enemies in the encounter. Now, all of the burn here is of course amplified by Stigma Workshop. The levels to which he can detonate and spread burn around are rather absurd. All these bonuses make Philip's Blazing Strike look like a joke. Once we factor in every conditional, this thing rolls for a 40 with 240% increased damage, while dumping burn potency and spreading it like crazy. For further reference, this is at a level similar to Bones Claiming with a few interesting caveats. For one, we are scaling off of attack power instead of defense power, which is a little easier to buff. Since it is a base skill as well, it can also directly benefit from resonance effects, meaning the offense level can reach far higher to boots. Last is the defense skill. This thing rolls shockingly high and has quite a lot of defense level. While it isn't the kind of defense skill that accelerates his game plan directly, it has an absurdly high cap on its conditionals when in ego state. 20. Fucking 20 extra power. If you thought Blazing Strike rolled high, this thing caps out at around 44 instead. This is a sudden jump of 44 shield out of seemingly nowhere when maxed out. Coupled with Volatile Passion, and it also inflicts a burn per hit taken to boot. This thing is something really stupid and may not seem like it gets a lot of use, but there are going to be times where making use of this will be important. Finally, we have to talk about factors affecting Sanity. Instead of the usual base 10 for winning a clash, with increases based on clash count, he instead gains 15. This is kind of huge since even with clash count, most will only gain 12. Each clash count past 1 means an additional 3 more SP after the clash. Plus, if he blows out a 4-coiner, he's gaining 24 SP after winning a clash, 34 even if it's with his S3. This isn't even the maximum, since he could lose a coin then win the clash for 3 more, or even beat out a 5 or 6-coiner, capping the gain at around 43 SP in the most extreme of cases. On top of that, he gains 15 SP after defeating an enemy regardless of level, and 10 SP after an enemy of higher level kicks the buckets at an ally's hands. This means from his base alone, his SP gain is crazy compared to most. Alright, so how do we build a team for this guy? Well, we'll need 2 very specific things. First off is a Sanity base. We need to turbo him over 40 as fast as possible, and maintain his ego states beyond the declining sanity of both his skills and Volatile Passion. From there we need a lot of burn, specifically for Blazing Strike and his defense skill. While he can fuel quite a lot of it on his own, having a more stable amount of burn will pay back massively in damage potential. Plus, we're going to want a good amount of it. Past there is mostly quality of life and any kinds of damage increases we can muster. Plus, we're making a burn team with some heavy amounts of sanity recovery built in. To start the sanity engine, we're going to be looking at who can assist us from the bench. There's 2 sinners that come to mind right away, these being Forced and Hongers. While Forced has plenty of benefits from being fielded, her access to burn basically starts and stops at LCE ABS Forced, which isn't the most ideal pick. He's an amazing potency stim and potential clasher, but that's outside of the scope of what we're after here. Instead, we want to look at the one who grips. Enforced has one of the strongest on-field passives in the game, giving a Lust Resonance of 4 the ability to boost the team's sanity by 30. This is exceedingly potent on a bleed team, but not the most useful on a team that needs other resonances as well to function. The benched version, Whispers, is what we're after instead. By using a Lust Resonance of 3, we can give one Sinner a plus 15 in Sanity. Surprisingly, this is easier to obtain than you would initially think. A lot of burn IDs also have some kind of access to Lust, plus any of them that do will be prioritized a little more to keep Sinclair's SP healthy. To note, the SP gain from Whispers is at combat start, meaning it can increase Sinclair's reliability, especially after he's lost SP from Volatile Passion at the end of the previous turn. The timing in this case is really important to keep him functioning, especially if Blazing Strike is slotted due to its Clash Lose effect. Honger's, on the other hand, is a lot more straightforward on the bench. With 5 Sloth, heal 6 SP to the Sinner with the least SP at the start of combat phase. This one is pretty expensive to fuel, so we're going to need to keep Sloth in mind when designing the team. One full rotation of a Sinner's buckets may yield only 3 Sloth, so having a Sinner with a Sloth defensive skill, or multiple Sinners with Sloth available in their kits will be a goal. Thankfully, this is rather easy to achieve, in part thanks to our next piece of the Sanity engine. The premium part of the Sanity engine is Liu Yi-sung. This fella is a rather potent Sanity generator, specifically within a burn team. With 4 Wrath, he boosts the Sinner SP at the end of turn, with the potential to reach 2 of them and boost his heal to 15 SP each. Now, since this is an end of turn boost, its timing coincides with a few very important things. First off is Volatile Passion's SP loss. The second is with Sinclair's SP loss after his skill 2 and skill 3. This 15 SP bump can help mitigate the losses suffered from Volatile Passion and the skills both, meaning his starting SP the following round is easier to control. This is a fantastic starting point, especially with his spread of Sin affinities. All of them get some use in some way or another, and with a Wrath-based counter, he can easily give Sinclair's Blazing Strike a boost. The rest of his kits is generically good, with a special mention to his S3 that also heals an ally's SP after attack for 15. 2 allies if he kills an enemy with more than 10 burn on it. In terms of egos, he has Crow's Eye for easy boss killing, Fell Bullet to potentially get a free volatile activation out of Sinclair, and finally the newest addition, Great Trichiliocosm. The last being a very recent addition at the time of video publishing. This amps the damage burn is allowed to do by 20%, while giving Yi-sung the ability to burn potently stim, as well as some funky damage ups. While it's expensive at 12 resources, we can inch these out in longer fights and dungeons, especially for bosses that need a little more of a damage nudge to put down. Next are the shakier parts of the SP engine, Roshu and Ishmael. Roshu is going to be our only Sinner without a base Wrath skill, since the plan would be to make use of Red Eyes and Penitence Roshu. Her SP recovery is threefold, but is mostly important on her S3 and counter, these two being Lust skills. She can contribute to the Whispers engine and thus reliably give us a source of Lust to put out. Penitence also grants SP on hits with her coins that gain Penitence, meaning she can reduce the number of allies targetable by other passives, hitting allies with the least SP. Finally, her S3 Skullbuster heals SP based on Penitence to a maximum of 10 SP. Now she uses her enhanced S3, she can heal herself and up to 3 allies SP by 15 each. The turn after, she also heals SP based on Penitence gained, divided by 2 for herself and 1 other ally. This effect can trigger twice per turn, so if she has another slot or follows an enhanced S3 with another S3, she can restore a smaller bump of SP as well. Note, most of her SP recovery in her kits is timed during her attacks. Plus, if we want to heal Sinclair's SP before he attacks, she'll need to be faster than him, which is possible thanks to the haste shoved into her kits. Otherwise, you can time her for after Sinclair to heal him up after he uses S2 or S3, and thus help mitigate the SP loss at the end of turn. Now, the main non-contributing factor at Roshu is her lack of Wrath and Burn on her kit. These can be solved through her egos, and they're ones we'd actually want to prioritize if possible. Forest for the Flames is a Lust outlet with fragile application. This one is damn useful since we have limited damage increases in this composition otherwise. It also conveniently inflicts burn and is a Lust skill itself. Next, we're looking at 4th Match Flame. This one grants her some burn application and a massive skill power boost every so often. It also rolls high. It's like a truck and has free attack weight. Being tied to Wrath, is also a pretty major bonus to boot. Finally, her season capstone, Ego. Great Prichiliocosm. This thing is Wrath, deals burn, and collects entangled life stacks, boosting her power. This last one is a little more selfish, and we barely have the resources to properly make full use of it. But it's worth keeping in mind regardless, especially in longer fights, as we have both bleed and burn in this composition to potentially make use of. As for Ishmael, she has 3 bloody options here, and they're all just really weird. None of them are perfect for our needs, but they all have something worth contributing. The most straightforward is Lu Ishmael. She's more or less generic burn support. Rolls okay, hits okay, applies some burn. Her sin affinities include Lust and Wrath both, which is fantastic enough, but aside from that she does little to actually contribute to the grand scheme of things. Faster, we've got Captain Ishmael. This one has Wrath in her kits but no Lust, but more importantly has SP restoration built in and some fun resonance based bonuses. The main issue with her is we can't activate her resonance passive due to lacking enough pride to do so outside of unfocused encounters. Captain of the Pequod can grant SP, her S2 can grant damage, and her S3 can also give SP on stagger or kill. Past those, her defensive skill also hands out SP if required. As for her burn application, it's practically non-existent without overheated gas harpoon, that of which, while possible in an unfocused encounter, isn't the case here. That said, the combo of Ardor Blossom Star into overheated gas harpoon is surprisingly potent and can be used to share burn around in a pretty funky fashion. This however is not unique to her alone, and Lu Ishmael can achieve the same. Now if she ever manages to give assist attack to Sinclair, with the reroll in tow, the S1 is worth quite a lot, same with a lot of the others in the composition to come. As for a less troublesome one to use, our last real option is Middle Apprentice Ishmael. Now you may be shouting that this isn't an envy team. You can't use a middle ID here. Well, you'd be half right. We're not getting the full power out of her kits here by any stretch of the imagination. However, her affinity spreads are favourable in having both Lust and Wrath on easy to access skills. You can also provision some bleed for Roshu to make use of, and some burn for the rest of the team. More importantly though, she has self-SP healing, meaning we can remove her from all the other SP heal targets more effectively than most. Her S1 as well as all hits under the effects of thermal blades heal her SP up. This can get her to 45 SP rather quickly, meaning Sinclair can more often be targeted by SP recovery effects. Anyhow, regardless of which Ishmael you bring along, all of them can fulfill some kind of niche. Just keep in mind their limitation. As for egos, we've got 3 that are exceedingly useful to have here. Capote is Wrath damage up for everyone. Ardor Blossom Star clashes damn high and gives her burn spread. And Blind Obsession is a massive SP heal and potential damage stim. Now that the Sanity engines are done, we can move on to the burn support fellas. One of the strongest we can throw in, we're looking at Lay Salt. He's got an insane number of things going for him, but for our purposes, he's got the 3 sin affinities we are in dire need of. Sloth on his S1 and Defense to fuel Honger's passives. Lust on his S2 for Force Whisperers, and finally Wrath for both Yi Sung and Sinclair's S3. This is almost a perfect spread for our use case. On top of that, he lets us double dip into Tremor as well as Burn, giving us an alternative payoff in the implementation of Tremor Scorch. He's also the most self-sufficient user of it, though the counts may be a little difficult to maintain long term without an extra hand here or there. Now in terms of egos, he can potentially enchant everything on his own. Regret is a massive boost to his capabilities, while funny enough applying a lot of Tremor counts. Capote gives Tremor based on Burn, meaning he's a one-stop shop for Tremor payoffs, and finally Crushbound Past, as unlikely as it is to come out, can cash in on Tremor in the weirdest of ways. It is bloody expensive though, so will come out on very, very rare occasion. Further than Assault, let's get our man Fire Punch out of the way. Firefist Gregor. While he doesn't give us the highest amount of burn on his own, he provides plenty of counts to stabilize its increase quite well. On top of that, he has huge amounts of Wrath and Lust to boot, meaning when it comes to resonances for Blazing Strike and Whisperers, he'll be one of our best. He is fuss and easy include. As for egos, we're staring hard at Unbrilliant Glory. While we don't really want to use up our sloth resources in order to keep Honger's Sanity engine alive, his ego is still heavily worth considering, since we've got some use for Tremor, as well as the Burn Stim. In longer encounters, this one pays massive returns. Next is Magic Bullet Otis. While we're not giving them the biggest amount of support this time around, Otis's stranglehold on Dark Flame cannot be beat. We need to run her in order to cash in on the massive amount of burn that Sinclair provides us, amping up the outgoing damage by huge amounts. Dark Flame also provisions defense down. While it isn't a huge damage increase, it does extend the physical damage provided by the rest of the team as well. He also has a Wrath S1, which should make it easier to get Blazing Strike's conditionals off, at least in terms of reliability. In terms of egos, we're mainly looking at Magic Bullets in order to get more reliable Dark Flame application. Though the team's Pride resources aren't the most extensive, we can fire one off every now and then. If we wish to help supplement that, we could of course mix in a Bind, but that one is far less of a priority here, as nice as getting Tremor Fracture would be. Finally, as for the benchables, Chi-Don for that 10% slash damage. Initially, Sinclair will be the fastest before Mussault begins ticking up, but should land on him more often than not. Costing Wrath resources is also quite easy to fuel as well. Next is She Heathcliff. Everyone here is either healthier than Sinclair or on par with him in the case of Magic Bullet Otis. More often than not, that means Sinclair will get that 20% damage bonus on a free Wrath Resonance. If you're wondering about Cockcliff, he's a little too awkward to throw in thanks to our Resonances required and Sanity engines. If you really want to put him in though, I would recommend trying it with Middle Ishmael and cycling out Magic Bullet Otis or Firefist Gregor, depending on what you're willing to sacrifice in terms of consistency. Now, as usual, Rodya's passives are always a little awkward to place. LCB Rodya probably has the most consistent, but it'll pretty much never benefit Sinclair. As for fielding Lou Rodya, that one is a 10% benefit in Wrath damage, but the rest of her kit leaves much to be desired. Getting Searing Birdcage out from Indicant's Trial may be pretty huge from time to time, but I wish she had a better ID to run for that. It can also heal SP on kill to boot, but yeah, not the most beneficial as Sinclair already gets SP when something dies anyway. For a 4th match flame may be worth considering, but again, it requires fielding Lou Rodya. Perhaps, if you can do without a generically strong support passive, consider leaving her in the backline just in case. Alternatively, you can swap her and Roshu and give Roshu a more generic support to field, but that's not the most useful here either, especially since the value of Roshu's egos is even more impactful than her own. Now if you want to do so anyway, run Captain Ishmael alongside. With the free Pride, you can now easily activate Captain the Quad and enable her SP engine more frequently. With everyone out of the way, we can now look at play patterns. This time is a little more complicated due to the sanity management options we have to stay aware of. Deployment matters a lot, specifically for our passives, since when ties are had, they are broken by deployment order for conditionals. This means placing Sinclair first at all times to maximize his chance of getting an SP heal. The rest of the Sinner's placements don't matter all too much, but keep in mind extra skill slots for resonance effects where appropriate. Gregor has the right affinities for our needs more often than not, whereas Roshu does not. Replacing Roshu last may be more beneficial in the long run. As for turns themselves, turn 1 we're going to be searching hard for 2 things. A free Lust Resin and a 4 Wrath Resin. This is to immediately turn on Yi Sung's SP engine and get a Whisper proc onto Sinclair. Now this may not always be possible, especially the 4 Wrath. So in cases where that kind of lineup doesn't exist, we'll be prioritizing differently. The free Lust is pretty much non-negotiable. Getting that head start for Sinclair is pretty massive, even more so if he can clash with Stigmatize on turn 1 and win the clash. Puts him really far ahead in terms of SP, potentially giving him ego on turn 2. Next priority would be building up Sloth. If we can get away with skill 1s from both Mussault and Yi Sung, we can power on Honger's passive, which helps stem the bleeding of SP from Sinclair's Volatile Passion. This is particularly important as the turns remained in volatile ego states ramp up, as Sinclair's effectiveness can go down dramatically without some SP stabilization. From there, we're going to want to round out the rest of his passives while getting Wrath Resonances in to bring the rest of the party up to speed in SP. While everyone is maxed out, Sinclair will get all of the SP heals to himself, with a few going to Otis whenever she uses an S3 to dump magic bullets. Now for the fastest route by far, we need his S3 and a free Lust Resin. By using his S3 to win a clash, we get plus 25 sanity at a minimum. If we also proc Whispers while he sits in the number 1 slots, that's 15 SP at the gates, placing him at exactly 40 SP. Plus engaging Ego State on turn 2 immediately. Now if Stigmatize is upcoming, we can use it to pull us over the line on turn 2 instead, so long as we either win a clash on turn 1 or activate Whispers on either turn. Ego will pop up if we win a clash with Stigmatize. The second route is a little more stable than the first, due to allowing the other Sinners to catch up in SP as well. Plus, when Sinclair tanks down to 20 to 25 SP, he may still be the lowest and get the benefits of turn end and combat start SP boost. This is only really the case if both turns all other Sinners manage to win their clashes, and otherwise place themselves at Sinclair's SP or higher. And having done so, they may manage to guarantee SP heals for Sinclair and thus immediately stabilize him. That said, if he's entered Ego State and starts at 20 SP, his reliability is still rather low, and using his S3 in a favorable clash immediately after would be a terrible idea. This is due to the off chance of him losing and setting him back 30 SP immediately. At such a low SP count, he'll pretty much be guaranteed to lose Ego States. Therefore, on the turn he enters Ego, unless you have the rest of his SP recovery online already, and there are no other targets for the SP recovery, don't use his S3. In all likelihood, the conditionals aren't ready yet either. Instead, opt for the S1 or S2, or heck, even his defensive if it can proc Whispers and get others over the SP line. When the turn ends, Yi-Sung's SP heal should kick in and help pick him up, alongside any clashes he wins and enemy deaths. On turn 3, he'll likely be far more stable and easier to use, if only from having all the SP heals active and getting into 45 SP right away. Beyond activation, we need to talk about the yo-yo maintenance. Since the SP loss is at end of turn, we're going to be starting most turns on the back foot. At below 45 SP, he loses a coin power. Same with below 40 and below 20. This makes him increasingly hard to use, as not only will he roll heads less often, but even when he does, he'll be rolling for lower values. I reckon it's okay to be as low as 20 SP and still have him fight for a clash win, but any lower than that and it'll be troublesome. On S2, this changes to 25 SP, since he'll lose 5 SP before he even clashes, which makes things messier by a decent bit. As he also loses 5 more SP after this skill, it makes it difficult to use at lower SP. If we want the maximum attack weight though, we can't really afford to clash any lower than 35 SP, as he'll lose 5 SP, win and gain 15 SP back, to then get the full attack weights at 45 SP. Of course he could go slightly lower if there are more clashes to win, but that makes using it more risky than required. Regardless, this makes Yi-Sung's end of turn SP heal particularly important to factor in due to the inherent SP costs in his buff, S2 and S3. Now while I've recorded plenty of footage to look back on and ascertain the exact way the end of turn SP heals and losses occur, and the timing / order of them when everything is going, it's a pain in the ass to figure exactly. But from what I could tell looking back, if he's on full SP at the end of turn, Yi-Sung's heal doesn't proc and we eat the full SP drain. This can happen if we only use S1s, or if any of his other SP healing factors activates. Specifically the one with ally kills. Now if he is at less than maximum SP due to using a skill 2 or skill 3 and nothing else activated, the healing then triggers at the same time as the loss, allowing us to offset quite a lot of the loss so long as he isn't somehow at full SP at the moment the end of turn check happened. This is so maddeningly stupid that I had to check my footage multiple times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. But this was the conclusion I arrived at, so it's bloody infuriating. The checks only become more confusing with dungeons that have multiple fights, or in the mirror dungeon, where the checks can just go haywire. Basically, Limbus doesn't like it when multiple checks for things need to be made at the same time, so be careful how you approach SP management for this guy. I had multiple turns in an encounter where he'd recover the SP, then suddenly stop recovering it. Then on fight end, he recovered it again. There was a case where he finished his skills on 41 SP and 6 Volatile Passion. Exiting the dungeon, I assumed he would be on 11 SP, but no, he was on 29. This makes me question what in the fuck happened, because he healed to 45 SP when the boss died. lost 30 SP to get down to 15 first, then gained 14 from Yi Sung's passive. Yet continuously during that fight, the same fight, I had multiple turns where the passive just missed, so Project Moon, please fix. Anyway, for the stuff we can actually control, we can offset 21 SP loss from the end of turn at start of turn by using whispers and frivolous jokes. Plus, at 4 volatile passion or lower, we really don't care about how much SP he has lost since we can offset the loss. Now at 5 or higher stacks, we're going to start having management issues. If we assume that the SP heal from Yi Sung doesn't perfectly work, we can heal 21 SP back from the above 2, and more through a few other means. If Ishmael is adjacent to him, he can offer 5 more SP by using her defense skill. If she's going before him, he can get more on a stagger or kill with her S3, or if Captain of the Quad can proc, he can get even more back, up to 17 SP. Through Captain Ishmael and the other factors, we can offset 38 SP. If we want to push it over the maximum loss of 40, we would need to hope Roshu is going earlier as well, or we'll be needing to use an ego to get past 40 SP loss. This means proccing whispers, frivolous laughter, and using blind obsession. This is more painful since Ishmael would need to be faster at a minimum. All of this though isn't quite enough since the S3 loses us 15 SP after attack, placing his end of turn SP as low as 30. If somehow Yi Sung's passive still refuses to proc, then he'll lose ego at 7 volatile passion or higher. We can of course hope that SP recovery happens after his attacks, meaning if Ishmael is slower than him, we can blind obsession or proc her SP recovery skills afterwards to push him as high as possible. Plus, if we imagine that he's lost 40 SP at turn end and starts turn at 5 SP as some kind of nightmare scenario, we can proc whispers and frivolous jokes. That's jumping the fella to 26 SP. On a Blazing Strike Clash win, he leaps to 45 SP immediately. Afterwards, he then loses 15 SP down to 30. If Yi Sung's passive procs on him, that'll be straight back to 40, more if there's enough Wrath Resonance. And finally, he'll then tank the 40 SP again, placing him at 0 to 5 SP once again. As long as we're above 0, he keeps ego. Otherwise, if we missed and land at 0, goodbye to ego. There's too many things that can go horribly wrong with this guy. But if we're pushing as far as 40 SP loss and the fight still isn't over, then either it's one hell of a boss fight, or we're about to get extremely screwed over. Regardless, within those 8 turns of 8 volatile ego activation, Dawnclair is a god among men. Summary, if you're willing to play with the SP yo-yo and get a little more creative in approaching sanity recovery outside of flinging a fluid sack, we can make this man a fair bit more stable and reap massive rewards in the form of excessive burn and big single coin nukes. I reckon as far as older IDs, he's held up quite well compared to some of his peers. I would recommend nabbing him the next time he's available, or if nothing else, he teaches you how to manage SP better than anything else. Thanks for watching. Honestly, I thought it'd be easier to put all of this into writing and subsequently into video, but yeah. PM Spaghetti is weird at times, making researching and writing all of this far more painful than it needs to be. Nonetheless, I hope you learned something cool with this guide or otherwise figured some kind of tech here or there. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like button and subscribe. Since we're still on the smaller end, it all goes a pretty long way. As for any announcements, we're approaching 2,000 subscribers now, which means we're not too far off the 2.5k milestone. I appreciate all the comments, even the ones that are outright argumentative or trying to assassinate my character. Anyhow, Discord server is still open, join up if you'd like. Thanks for your time.